Well, as usual, Turkey Day finds my wallet lighter and my body 20 pounds heavier. I still have all these leftovers. I mean, what am I going to do with all these? I could have turkey dinners for a week and only eat half of it. Or I guess I could get creative. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll get creative. Because what are leftovers but a canvas for great culinary creations? So please join me today as we explore the master that is leftovers today on... Now, one thing I can always count on having left over post-Turkey Day is, well, turkey. And after giving it a little bit of thought, I realized turkey would make a great pot pie. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something I've never told anybody else. So you got to make sure to keep it secret. But every year after Thanksgiving, I have this strange dream where a giant turkey is chasing me around my home. It's really quite terrifying. Did you guys hear something? Oh, there's nothing there. Must just be paranoid or something. Well, anyways, let's get cooking. To kick things off, you want to saute some veggies. Now, before we get into what veggies we're going to be cooking, we're going to want to get into what the veggies are going to be cooking in. Yeah, makes sense. Now, ordinarily, I reach for something like this. Nice flat bottom, very roomy, not so steep sides, good for flipping food. But since I have to do the dishes tonight, and I don't like cleaning very much, I'm going to saute in this, since all of it's going to end up in here anyways to make the sauce. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is heat your pan over high heat. I mean really hot here. And then you're going to want to add some fat. I like to use olive oil, but you can use whatever you want. You're going to want to use just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. Then once your oil is just shimmering, you're going to want to add your vegetables. That means you're going to want to slice 1 large carrot, dice 2 cloves of garlic, 1 medium onion, 1 stalk of celery, and slice 5 mushrooms. Then you're going to want to add a little bit of salt, just to bring out the moisture in the vegetables. Once your carrots are just starting to soften up and your onions turn opaque, you're going to want to add 3 cups of chicken broth. Once your mixture has just come to a boil, you're going to want to add some chicken broth base, about a half a teaspoon. The next thing you're going to want to add is a slurry, and before we can add it, we have to make it. It all starts with 3½ tablespoons of cornstarch. Once you've got that measured out, you're going to want to add just enough milk to come about 1/4 inch over it. Then you're going to want to mix it. I prefer my slurry shaken, not stirred. But don't drink it. Don't want to do that. After you've added your cornstarch slurry, it's going to look something like this. Now you're going to want to cook it from anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes to get rid of that chalky taste that cornstarch can give a dish. After the time's up, you're going to want to add your turkey. I like to use about 1 cup to 1.5 cups, but you can use as much or as little as you want. Now you're going to want to put your filling in a 9.5 inch deep dish pie pan. Now, everyone knows a pot pie is nothing without a good crust. And I like to use biscuits. Once you got 7 mini biscuits on top of your filling, you're going to want to move it to the oven. So, when I say leftover mashed potatoes, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Butter? Maybe gravy? Well, I'll tell you what I think of. Donuts. Now, the first thing you're going to need to make this recipe is a cup of buttermilk. And since I didn't have any lying around, I decided to substitute it with 1 cup of milk and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. You need to let your milk and vinegar mixture sit for 5 minutes, and then you're going to want to heat it up in the microwave. Okay, now to start these donuts, the first thing you want to do is dissolve 1 packet of active dry yeast in 1 cup of warm buttermilk, or you could use the milk and vinegar that we made earlier. You want to get a whisk and whisk that together. Once you've done that, you're going to want to add 3/4 cup of heated up mashed potatoes. Whisk that in thoroughly. Then you're going to want to add 3/4 of a cup of 100% pumpkin puree, not the stuff that's already seasoned. Then you're going to want to add 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. And then last but not least, you're going to add 3 eggs. All your ingredients are thoroughly mixed, it's time to work on the dry ingredients. And we're going to switch from a whisk to a spoon. Now, this gets a little bit complicated, so you're going to want to come in closer. Come on, don't be shy. Now to kick off these dry ingredients, you're going to want to add 2 cups of granulated sugar. Once you've got the sugar thoroughly mixed in, you're going to want to add 4 teaspoons of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, also known as 1/2 tablespoon. You're going to want to mix that in thoroughly to make sure it's completely incorporated. Once that's thoroughly mixed in, you're going to want to add 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie seasoning. Then you're going to want to add anywhere from 3 to 6 cups of flour, and you're going to want to mix that in until it looks something like this. And when you stir the dough, it starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. You're going to want to cover your dough and place in the fridge from anywhere from 2 hours to 24 hours. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, why is baking powder and yeast in the same dish? Well, I'll tell you. It's because... Did you guys hear that? That means it's puppet show theater time. Come on, let's go.
Once upon a time, there was a little yeastlet named Jaeger that lived in a dehydrated slumber in a yeast packet. Until one day, he felt his home stir, and a blinding light shone in. At first, Jaeger was scared, but after a while, he plucked up his courage and decided to explore. After a while, he found himself in a baked good, and he was very hungry after his long journey, so he decided to try some flour. But he didn't like it one bit, so he decided to keep looking and eventually found sugar. Now, he was a little bit hesitant after the horrible experience he had with the flour, but he decided to try it anyways. So he took a bite and discovered it was delicious. Then he did the 2 things yeast do best: multiply and produce gas, which produced bubbles in the dough, thus leavening it. Now they continued to produce gas until the baker decided to cook the dough, and once it reached 120 degrees, they died. The end.
Okay, kids, now let's contemplate what we've learned. We've learned that yeast like to eat sugar. We've learned that they multiply rapidly, and we learned that they produce gas, and that gas leavens the dough. And we've also learned that they die at 120 degrees. What's a bake? Now to make these bad boys, you're going to want to grab a small bit of the dough and roll it until you have a circle. Then you're going to want to transfer it to a flour-lined cutting board. Once you've got, I don't know, about 5 or 6 of them, you're going to want to hoist them up and transfer them to a fryer. Now, if you don't have an electric fryer, you can always use a cast iron skillet. Just make sure you have a fry thermometer so you can get it to exactly 350 degrees. These cook for about 1 minute per side. After about a minute's up, you're going to want to flip your donuts. Once the final minute of cooking is up and your donuts look golden brown and delicious, you're going to want to lift them out of the oil and allow them to drain for just a little bit over the pan. Then, you're going to want to transfer them to a paper towel lined plate where you can get any excess oil off of the skin of the donuts. Once you've allowed your donuts to drain for a little while, you're going to want to transfer them to a cooling rack that's over a baking sheet to get ready for the glaze. Glaze all starts with 3 cups of confectioner's sugar, to which you're going to want to add 1/3 cup of warm water and 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie seasoning. And then you're going to want to whisk it together, making sure not to, throw confectioner's sugar all over the kitchen. Now to glaze the donuts, my personal favorite approach is just to dunk the donut in the glaze and roll it around a couple times and lift it out and allow it to drain. Then you're going to want to transfer it to a baking sheet to cool. We encourage you to... No, not you, you're not real. Ah! Well, me and the turkey have worked out our differences. So I hope we've encouraged you to try something new with your Thanksgiving leftovers this year. Want the turkey?